Hello, I'm Sherry Sturman, Director of Creole Education. Welcome to Creola's Art of Learning program. Art helps children learn about important ideas and issues. Today, we're going to talk about how kids use art to speak up as advocates, addressing issues they care deeply about, including social justice, the environment, and gender equity. So gather your family and friends, grab some art supplies, and get ready for an important conversation and hands-on learning lesson. I'm thrilled to introduce today's guests, Paula Leese and Khadijah Latimer, two amazing art teachers who are both part of an educator collective, Anti-Racist Art Teachers. They teach art by day and help educators rethink teaching practices during programs like this after school. We are so fortunate to have them with us now to share their thought leadership and their teaching expertise. Paula Leese, please tell our viewers what you teach and why you formed the collective Anti-Racist Art Teachers.
Hola a todos. So I'm Miss Paula Leese, and I'm an elementary art educator and founder of Anti-Racist Art Teachers. So to be anti-racist means to actively act out against racism and towards achieving racial equity. So this collective started el año pasado when I realized that many educators online were remaining silent to the injustices occurring in the world. And when we remain silent or don't do anything, it allows for those horrible things to continue happening. And it's important to me as a teacher to demonstrate and model what it looks like to speak up when something is not right and to take action when we can to try to make the world a better place. So with that in mind, I reached out to other art teachers all across the country, and we created the collective Anti-Racist Art Teachers. And through our website and social media platforms, our mission is to give other art teachers the resources they need to empower students, como ustedes, with the confidence and support needed to make a positive difference in the world.
Khadijah, please explain what you teach and how you got involved with Anti-Racist Art Teachers.
Hi, so my name is Khadijah Latimer, and I teach in upstate South Carolina. I am currently split between two elementary schools. The first elementary school is kindergarten through fifth grade, and the second elementary school is third through fifth grade. And I got involved with Anti-Racist Art Teachers when Paula Leese reached out to me sometime last year. So we all worked together and helped one another create resources and present at conferences to try to encourage others to take on an anti-racist curriculum.
Khadijah, the art education field has embraced this combined term, artivism, which is the intersection of art and activism. Let's start with you explaining to our viewers what it means to blend art and activism.
So activism is using your actions to create some type of social change. And so when you add art and activism, we create artivism. I like to use books in my classroom to talk about activism, just so kids can see what that looks like. And so one action would be to speak up. And this book is by Miranda Paul. And it's a great way for kids to get to thinking about things that they want to speak up about and what that looks like. And that's the perfect opportunity to have discussions in the classroom and for children to share their thoughts.
And Paula Leese, art has the power to persuade, to challenge stereotypes, to shift narratives, and to help us advocate for a more just society. Please help our viewers translate this vision of using art for social transformation. What are some examples of activism and artivism that children could do at home or at school?
I think it's important to know that you don't need to be an adult to be an activist. In fact, there are many kids just like you who've used their words and actions to make a difference in the world. And some activists you might have heard about already, like Greta Thunberg, who uses her voice to speak up about climate change, Malala Yousafzai, who took action to demand that girls all around the world have access to school and education, or even Kavanaugh Bell, who started a food pantry during COVID-19. So I recommend looking at some resources put together by Francesca Levy. She's an art educator based in Florida, who's also a part of our Anti-Racist Art Teacher Collective. She has lots of biographies and information about some of these kid activists that live all over the world. And in addition, there's also many professional art activists or artivists And two I recommend looking into are Ai Weiwei and Fabiana Rodriguez. There's also the nonprofit organization called Amplifier that uses art to amplify the most important movements of our times. So I'll be sure to share links with all of those resources in the comments of this video. And all of these individuals and organizations I've mentioned, they've taken action to bring about social change, but you at home might have already taken part in some form of activism already. And here's some examples of what activism can actually look like. So the first thing any artivist needs to do is learn. So this can include researching an issue that's important to you and creating a mind map or a drawing of pictures of what you find. Next is to educate. This means teaching others about the important issue. So that's your opportunity to share everything you've learned. You can visually do this by making a brochure or creating a display board. You can also advocate. This means to support and recommend changes to public policy and laws. So that means you can write letters and draw pictures that express your point of view and send them to government officials or other important leaders. Another form of activism is to protest or to speak out publicly for what you believe in. This usually involves a larger group of people coming together. Artivists might create signs, banners, t-shirts, or attend protests as a way to visually express their thoughts. You can also campaign. You can do this by working to raise public awareness on the issue, that you can encourage more people to join you in taking action. This might mean making signs or posters to hang around your community, or creating a video and posting it to social media. You can also donate by raising money or collecting donations for a charitable cause related to that issue. If you're feeling up to it, you can also organize your own event to raise funds or form an after-school group with other kids wanting to create change together and take collective action. And finally, you can create. So you don't have to start your own nonprofit organization, but maybe you can start small and build your own community food pantry.
Khadijah, I love how you start many of your art lessons by reading books with children that help them think about big questions, and that you're starting by asking kids what they would like to change in the world around them, and how can they imagine a world that is safer and kinder and more fair, and how could they improve the injustices and the inequities and the environmental damage they see in the world. Tell us about one of your favorite books that helps children imagine this better place and see the magic that is within them, in their words, and in their art.
One of my favorite books would be Malala's Magic Pencil. And it really allows students to read the story and see the world for what it is, especially her telling her story. And so they can not only see the world as it is, but they can also imagine what the world would look like if they were able to change anything, or to even listen and understand the things that she wanted to change in the story. And so once you see the world as it is, and then you can imagine what the world could be, then you have a better understanding of what steps need to be taken to have some sort of action take place where you can change the things that you want to change. I think one of my favorite parts in the story would be the pushback that she received when she was wishing and hoping for change in her country. And I was able to talk to my students about understanding that sometimes when you are an activist, you will receive some type of pushback. And so when you receive that type of pushback, it's very important to be vigilant, because all of the activists that we know are very vigilant and they're very persistent. And that's one of those things that is very admirable about those people.
If we don't ever speak out, then nothing will ever change. So it's really important that we start with our voices and know that our voices have a lot of power.
Such important ideas, helping students raise their voice, speak up, and contribute to this collective good to make change. Khadijah, the story that you told us about sounds fantastic as a springboard to help children create magic pencil art. At Creole Education, we often talk about visual voices and making thinking visible so that children have ways to express what they're thinking and feeling in their artwork. It's another opportunity to speak up. We'd love for you to demo the project where your students are showing what they're thinking and feeling inspired by the book.
I created a magic pencil using construction paper. And around my pencil, I added things that I would like to draw into the world. First step would be to create a border. I wanted something really colorful, so I decided to use my gel crayons and blend them to create this border. I decided that the white background wasn't really going to work for my magic, so I decided to cut out a piece of black construction paper and paste over the white. I'll be using my metallic markers to draw on top of the black, so I really figured that that would really make my colors pop a lot more, and I could add stars and other things in my background to really add to that magical factor. While you're working on your artivism piece, think about some of the things that you would draw into the world if you had the opportunity to. What would be some of the things that you would draw into the world that would benefit you? And think about things that you would add into the world that would benefit others. In Malala's magic pencil, Malala started off by wishing she had things like a ball for her brothers to play with, or a lock to put on her door to keep her siblings out. But she realized that those things aren't that important, and things like helping people who experience hunger was much more beneficial. Now I'm going to use some of my Vivid Colors cardstock to create my pencil. I use pink for my eraser and yellow for my pencil, but of course your pencil can look totally different. While you're working on your artivism piece, you can even start brainstorming ways that you can bring about social change in your neighborhood. Two things that immediately come to mind would be the environment and food security. By taking care of the environment, we are taking care of the planet that we live on. And by donating to local food banks, we're able to help families who experience hunger. Another thing I would draw into the world if I had a magic pencil would be racial justice. Racial justice is the fair treatment of people of all races. When we acknowledge our differences, we can then understand that our experiences can be different as well, and that allows us to support one another. The final thing that I want to add to my artivism piece would be gender equality. Gender equality ensures that everyone has the same opportunities regardless of their gender. One way you could help improve racial justice and gender equality is by always speaking out when you witness something that is unfair. Now it's time for the fun part. I get to add all of the things to my artivism piece that I wish I could draw into the world. So, I'm using a metallic marker, and I'm going to take my marker and outline the outside of my pencil because I'm noticing that my graphite's kind of missing a little bit against that black background. And remember, my example is just that, an example. So get creative with your artivism piece and think about some of the fun things you want to add to yours. The next thing I want to add to my pencil would be the magic coming from the top. Now, of course, you can think of lots of different line designs and patterns that you might want to use at the tip of your pencil. So again, get creative. I think I'm going to try some swirls for this one. I think it will look really neat. But here's an example of what I did the last time I created one of these. There are so many cool things you could add coming out the top of your pencil. I'm adding swirls to mine, but here are just a few other ideas you could think about. Maybe your pencil will be writing something or drawing something. Instead of swirls or line designs, maybe you have shapes coming out the tip of your pencil. Again, just get creative and think of all the fun things you could add to this drawing. Now it's time to go in and add the things that I want to draw into the world. I've already spent some time talking about the topics I want to add into my artivism piece. Now I can actually write them in. So I think the first one I'm going to start with is food security. We've spent some time talking about how important food security is for families who experience hunger and how food banks And soup kitchens can help these families get the food that they need so they can live a healthy lifestyle. Next, we talked a lot about the environment and how important it is for us to take care of the earth that we live on. So, doing things as simple as reducing, reusing, and recycling waste, and making sure that we reduce our plastic use and conserve energy and protect wildlife. All of these things are very beneficial to our planet. And just imagine if everybody took out the time to do these small things. The next thing I would draw in would be racial justice. We spent some time talking about how important racial justice is and how valuable it is for us to take out the time to recognize our differences, and that when we admire, celebrate, and respect our differences, we have a better understanding of how our experiences can be different as well, and then we can further support each other. Lastly, gender equality would be the final thing I will add to this artivism piece. We talked about how gender equality is very important and how being fair, regardless of gender, is essential. When we're fair to everyone, regardless of gender, everyone has equal opportunity. Remember, you can always improve racial justice and gender equality by always speaking out when you see things that are unfair. And just to add some final touches, I'm going to add some stars and some dots to the background just to give it that magical flair. I really enjoyed taking out the time to create this artivism piece. I think it's very special to think about the things that are important to you and think about ways that you can also bring about change. Remember, we can only bring about change when we take action, and doing something as simple as creating an artivism piece is a great way to start. Always brainstorm about the ways that you can change the world, and then get out there and do it. Remember, we talked about lots of young activists already. You could definitely be one yourself. And just like Malala, it all started out with just imagining.
Wow, Khadijah, that was incredible. A really lovely way to take children on an imaginary journey and empower them to how they can make the world better. If we can imagine it and see it, then we can work towards that improved world. There are other artivism projects that we would love to share today. Paula Elise, your work with students has covered many artivism topics. How do you help students hone in on what's important to them personally so they design unique projects that bring their voice to the table?
Khadijah's lesson is an excellent way for us to start thinking about all of the different things that we care about. But what I want everyone to do at home right now is to ask themselves, what is the one issue that you care the most about? Lo que es la más importante. And I want you to imagine what that future would look like if we could solve that issue. So know that imagination is the key to liberation. And as Lucille Clifton said, we can't create what we can't imagine. So I want everyone to close your eyes and I want you to imagine that better future. And what does it look like? Think about what it sounds like, and also think about what it feels like. And once you've imagined that future, take a moment to think about what things need to change in order to make that future a reality. What can you say and do to make a difference? So the project I'm going to share with you in a minute is going to focus more on what it is you have to say about that issue. And we're going to do that by creating our own little miniature billboard. Primero, you're going to need to print this template. I'll be including a link to it in the comments, or you can also draw the template out on your own. As you can see, I printed this one on Crayola's Vivid Cardstock paper. You can use any color paper you may have at home. You'll be designing your billboard in the rectangle below. But before you get started, piensa. What are some of the issues or topics that you care about? Pick one que es lo más importante. What do you have to say about this issue? What images and pictures can you use to express your thoughts? After you have an idea of what you want to say, use a pencil and sketch it out. I like to draw light till I know it's right. This makes it easier to erase or make any changes. Para mí, the issue that I care about the most is achieving racial equality. And in order for this to become a reality, we must all acknowledge that we see color. So that's what I chose to write at the top. After sketching out my drawing in pencil, I traced over my lines with a Crayola Take Note gel pen. Now I'm going to use a Crayola glitter marker to add color to my glasses. The sparkles will bring extra attention to the glasses as the focal point of my drawing. Let me take a moment to go back to the meaning behind the message of my billboard. To say that we see color means to recognize the unique experiences we all have simply because of the color of our skin. Ideally, we would live in a world where skin color wasn't a factor in our lives, but the unfortunate reality is that racism still exists. To say that you don't see color means to dismiss the struggles and challenges others may face because of the color of their skin. When we ignore race, it allows for racism to continue. And the first step in taking action against racism is to see color and embrace and honor our differences. Now I'm going to use these Crayola Colors of the World markers. This pack includes 24 unique shades of brown. Although they're all brown, each one is one of a kind, just like you are. It's such diversity that makes the world such an exciting and wonderful place. You can see the beauty in all of the colors all around you. By pretending that everyone's the same and overlooking our differences, we remove individuality. This is impractical as no two people are the same. We live in a diverse world and we are exposed to a variety of people, whether it's in person or on TV and in the media. Our environment consists of varied families, homes, skin colors, hair, abilities, points of view, and more. Our differences make us who we are, distinct and independent individuals that compose the vibrant spectrum of our society. I just love how beautiful all of these various shades of brown are. In addition to the marker set, there are also the new Colors of the World crayons. You can see even more of the beautiful shades of brown that make up our unique skin colors. I'm going to use these to add a rainbow of todos los colores marrones. Mira qué lindos son. So let's choose to see color. Cuando vemos color, we can begin to notice if someone is being treated differently simplemente por el color de su piel. We can then use our voices to speak up and our actions to intervene. We can begin to advocate for ourselves and our friends. This can make a real difference and is part of creating a more equitable and just future for all. It's also important to know that skin color is only one small aspect of a person's identity. There is so much more to who we are beyond our appearance. We have many complex and intersecting pieces that make us who we are. Recuerda that there are plenty of reasons to feel different, because we all are different. Y eso es lo que nos hace cada especial. When we begin to acknowledge our differences and share our stories, we realize the many ways in which we're similar. We can then honor and celebrate each other, and we can stand together to achieve igualdad para todos. What are some other ways that we can stand together to achieve equality for all? While you're thinking, I'm going to go ahead and use these gel crayons to add color to my background. These crayons have a bit of an oily texture to them, which makes them glide easily across the paper. The yellow is also a little bit transparent, so I can color over parts of my drawing without worrying about my message being covered up. I'm adding this bright yellow around my glasses, so it looks like they're radiating with light. It really makes my design stand out. The other thing about these gel crayons is that they're perfect for blending colors together. Since the glasses are a cool blue color,
I'm going to make them pop out more by adding warmer colors to my background. I'm going to blend some orange in with my yellow. While I'm doing that, I would love to hear all about your ideas for how we can stand together to achieve igualdad para todos. What are some of the things you can say or do when you see an injustice occurring? An injustice is when someone's being treated unfairly. To give you some ideas of what you can say and do, I recommend reading the story Say Something by Peter H. Reynolds. This book explores the many ways that a single voice can make a difference. Porque tu voz y tus acciones tienen poder. Once you've finished designing your billboard in the rectangle, you can choose to decorate your display around it as well. I'm going to use a Crayola metallic crayon. These were my favorite art material to use as a kid. I just love the shine and texture you're able to achieve with them. Recuerda that this is your billboard, so you get to design and decorate it however you want. Since we're running out of time, I'm just going to color in this base. Si tenía más tiempo, I would be sure to use more of these marvelous metallic colors. Ahora we're ready to make our billboard three-dimensional. The steps can be found at the top of the template. Primero, cut out the two shaded rectangles. I'm first going to carefully cut out this smaller one here along the bottom of the page, making sure I don't accidentally cut off the base. Then I'm going to flip my paper over and carefully cut out the rectangle más grande that's on the top of this page. Make sure you always cut away from you, so it may be easier to turn your paper rather than your scissors. The last part we will cut are these two short dotted lines along the base. I'm first going to fold the billboard in the middle, making sure the bottom of the legs align with one another. This is importante so that my billboard doesn't become lopsided. Now let's flip it over and fold up this small base or ledge along the bottom of my design. The last step is to fold the feet of the billboard inward. Know that not only do we all look different, pensamos diferente también. So your billboard will be just as unique as you are. The goal of creating this billboard is to think about what's most important to you and to share with others what it is you have to say about it. Once you begin to use your voice to speak up, you can start thinking about how you can take creative action and make a change in the world. I can't wait to see your marvelous billboards and to learn more about what it is that's important to you. Maybe you'll be inspired to recreate your miniature billboard on a larger scale.
Thank you, Paulice. Wow, the ability to design a huge billboard sign as a miniature that's customized is lovely. And especially that template where we're going to get this folding stand so kids can really have their ideas stand up and be seen so they are heard. I want to remind the parents and teachers that are with us today that art is a great way for kids to learn. And as kids are creating and presenting your ideas, it's great for you to respond and connect the activism they're talking about and creating to other life experiences. You can find the template for Paulice's mini billboard stand and many other resources that anti-racist art teachers and Crayola Education are sharing. And while you're downloading those resources, also be sure to sign up to receive the free Crayola Education monthly newsletter. News about upcoming Crayola education programs like this one will be sent right to your email box. And we look forward to you joining future Art of Learning programs, the read-along, draw-alongs, and the Creative Spa for teachers. Now that you've seen Paulice and Kadisha's ideas, it's time for you to create. Grab some colored pencils, markers, paper, and think about the projects that you want to do with your family or class. When you finish your magic pencil art or your mini billboards, post a picture in the comment section of this video. We really look forward to seeing your Artivism creations. Paulice, we've seen so many ideas here today already. Kadisha had shown us how magic pencils can be used to see a better world. And you helped us zoom in on what really matters most to an individual and how that message can be amplified on an Artivism billboard. What other suggestions and examples do you have so children can take the ideas from this program into their communities and make a real world impact?
Once you've figured out what is most important to you, you can start thinking of creative ways you can take action. So some examples of things my students have done in the past include a campaign to raise awareness about animal adoption, where my students painted portraits of dogs and cats that needed homes at our local shelter. As part of that, we also created dog and cat toys and collected blankets and other items, which we later donated to the shelter as well. Another example was in 2015, after the tragic earthquake in Nepal. My students made paintings of some of the historic sites that were impacted, and then we printed them onto postcards, which we then sold, and all of the money raised from those sales went to a nonprofit organization that was working to provide direct aid to communities in Nepal. So over the years, my young artivists have created cards, toys, murals, posters, and even hosted fundraising events, all with the goal of creating a positive change in the world. So I suggest for everyone at home, starting small, but dreaming big and knowing that there's no limit to your imagination. So ask adults for help. That includes family, teachers, coaches. Also see if you can find others that share that same passion and vision as you, maybe by starting an after school club, just knowing that there is strength in numbers.
I love the tip about starting small but dreaming big. That really is essential to Artivism. So before we close, I would just love to hear a last bit of advice from each of you. What would you like to share with our viewers? Kadisha?
I think one of the most important things I would want to advise everyone is when you're creating something and you're using Artivism, it's very important for you to be intentional about what you want your topic or your message to be about. But I think it's very, very important for you to remember that you need to share this art with other people. That's how you want to get your message out. So it's very great to make these pieces of artwork and to be very intentional about your message, but be also very intentional about sharing these messages out with your friends and your family. So your pieces could be hung up in your room or on your refrigerator, or you could even give them to your teacher to hang up in the classroom so others can see what you're very passionate about and what you hope to see change for.
And Paula-Lise?
You matter, and that your voice matters and your actions matter, and that you can make a difference. The future is in your hands, and nothing's going to change unless we work together to change it. So know that you have the power to imagine and create a better future para todos.
That is lovely. Everyone is a change maker, no matter how young or how old. We all have that ability to imagine and create the change. That is lovely. Well, thank you for joining us. Special thanks to our two guests, Paula-Lise and Kadisha. We are so excited to be sharing your ideas with the Creole education community. And thank all of our viewers who have joined us here today.
Bye.
Adios, everyone.
Bye-bye.